unity and healing. It's the cry we're hearing from Republicans in their last-ditch attempt to defend the seditious actions of a man who incited insurrection, resulting in 5 American deaths. So to those Republicans I say, last I heard, America doesn't negotiate with terrorists. Let's get into it.
Let's try to come together.
I think the first thing we need to do as leaders in America is lower the temperature and try to come together.
I think we need to lower the rhetoric. We need to get some unity going.
The gall of these Republicans to call for healing and unity after their leader, who he told them for years had no intention to partake in a peaceful transition of power, incited his base of conspiracy theorists, white nationalists, and all-around fine people to storm the Capitol building in an attempt to overturn the result of a free and fair election. You want something to unify around? Unify around convicting a seditious insurrectionist now that he's become the first president in US history to be impeached twice. Unify around the principles of American democracy. Unify around holding those to account who in another time would have sided with the fucking Confederacy. And god damn do Republicans have some conspiracy theories amongst them. They start with a simple lie like there's no way Trump could lose. And from there, they just keep changing the goalposts. First it's he'll win, and they were wrong. Then the courts would prove fraud, but they didn't. Then the states wouldn't certify, but they did. Then there's a second slate of electors, or Mike Pence is supposed to wave a wand or some shit. So I'm asking you to consider the possibility that the fact that you have been proven wrong at every turn may indicate that your premise was wrong to start with, and that those who convinced you of it were probably lying to you. At this stage, Trump supporters are like the fake prophets, you know, the ones that choose the date for the end of the world. But on that day, the world doesn't end, so they just keep picking another date. And this cycle of stupidity and willful ignorance, there isn't any point waiting for it to end. There is no end. Now I'm hearing that the lack of evidence is evidence itself. Apparently the lack of evidence about voter fraud is evidence that the left has covered up voter fraud. I guess Trump was right when he said,
"You're very special."
And now at a time of crisis, at a time of horror due to the incitement of violence by a conservative president, conservatives go back to doing what they do best. The party of personal responsibility, play the victim.
Big tech launching a coordinated and kind of a preemptive strike on the president, the First Amendment, many of his supporters, banning them from social media permanently.
The big tech companies in banning not just President Donald Trump, but cracking down on conservative speech.
Big tech continues to suppress conservative speech.
I lost, over the weekend, 55,000 Twitter followers.
Republicans have no way to communicate.
Imagine that. You wake up and you're suddenly unpopular with the wrong person, and you can't communicate. And you have no legal representation. And you can't fly on an airplane. And you can't put your money in a bank.
Here's a pretty common sense rule to follow. If Twitter says it's going to go through its platform, remove bots, far-right extremists, and people calling for violence, and the next day you've lost 55,000 followers, maybe don't admit on national television that a good portion of your followers were bots, far-right extremists, and people calling for violence. Secondly, to all the Trump supporters claiming that this social media crackdown is a plot to silence conservatives, well, I present this 2017 tweet from Donald Trump as Exhibit A. Loser terrorists must be dealt with in a much tougher manner. The internet is their main recruitment tool, which we must cut off and use better. There's always a tweet. And I'm not even going to get into debunking the BS First Amendment claims from Fox talking heads or other constitutional originalists who clearly haven't even read the document. Freedom of speech means you are free from government oppression or arrest. it does not mean you are free from consequences. If you walk into work tomorrow and call your boss a moron, the government will not arrest you. Why? Because you have freedom of speech. But something tells me you won't be walking into work the following day. Think of Twitter like a homophobic baker, and think of your racist, bigoted, and violence-inciting followers as a wedding cake for a gay couple. Twitter is under no obligation to bake that cake. And this again takes me back to the calls for unity and healing. It's your turn to try and unify the nation. You don't get to spend months lying about election fraud, whipping your base into a frenzy, and then after they've attempted an insurrection cry, "We need unifying rhetoric from the other side." America has the ability to unite. It's kind of in the name. But America should have no interest and no willingness to unite with people who are doing what they can, not only to divide the nation, but to actively inspire an armed rebellion against it. America should never negotiate or unite with terrorists. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and hit the bell so you stay up to date with all of our videos.